Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's stream. My name is Nubbins Inc., pretty much everywhere on the internet, and I am here with our good friend Jahara Jade to talk to you on this office hours stream about how to be a better streamer, how to be a better content creator, just in general. So we're here to teach you, we're here to learn a thing or two from all of you as well as our valued viewers. And we're here to just talk all things content creation, specifically how to make high quality static content. But before we get too far into it, Jahara, thank you so much for joining us. Please tell everybody here a little bit about yourself, how you got into content creation, who you are as a content creator, all of that stuff.
So much, I appreciate it. Hi, I'm Jahara Jade. I've been a content creator since August of 2020, I believe. I got into content creation because of the pandemic, and I was bored. But right now, I am a content creator full-time. I do streaming and video gaming and cosplay full-time across YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and Facebook. So,
you gotta throw it in there. You gotta throw it in there, right?
Instagram is also to Facebook.
Yes, exactly. and Threads and B-Sky and Mastodon and
also Threads.
and right? So yeah, everywhere, yeah. And that's why I wanted to have you on for our first guest spot actually on this show in the new year 2024. I think there's a handful of folks who are taking this time in the new year to get started with streaming, get started with content creation, or to change things up with their existing content creation platform. And as somebody who has really honestly truly mastered the art of creating content, right? Because that's one of the things we talk about all the time on this show is you cannot just be a streamer, you have to be a full-fledged content creator making valuable content everywhere. So as a cosplayer, I think, it's probably safe to say that Instagram is a very natural place to start. But like what was your process of even getting started on like Instagram as a platform? Like how did you even make headway there from the get-go?
It's so funny you say that because a lot of people think that I was a cosplayer that moved to streaming, so that I was like on Instagram and then I was streaming. I actually was a streamer first.
Oh,
and I
okay.
started cosplay as a way to promote my stream, even though I don't cosplay on stream.
Okay.
I wanted to have like a social platform so people could know my face and want to come talk to me on stream, but I wanted to give them like something to entertain them with. And so when I was streaming, within the first month, we were doing like a 30 days for 300 followers in 30 days thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, if we reach it, I'll do a cosplay. And I'd not done cosplay previous to that. It was just like, what do you guys want me
Wow.
to do? Like, what would you be entertained by? And they were like, cosplay. And I was like, cool, what should I cosplay? And they were like, we were playing Breath of the Wild at the time, and they're like, cosplay Zelda from this game. And I was like, girl's not even in this game.
but okay.
So we hit that goal. I like literally like hopped on Amazon, was just like Zelda cosplay, and went on Etsy and was like black elf ears, and then like got them in the mail, put them on, took some selfies in my backyard, and was like, oh my gosh, this is actually so fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it so much. And my husband is like the biggest supporter ever, and he was like, you should, if you're gonna do that, you should get a TikTok, you should get an Instagram. And I was just like, ick, I don't like social media. I was like, oh no. But he just, he made them for me. He made me an Instagram, and he made me a TikTok, and he started posting, like I was making videos just for myself and for stream, and he would take those videos and post them. And I found out one day, because I saw his iPad like going ding, 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 from like likes from the different apps. And I was like, what have you done? And so he made them for me. He was right. And that's how I got started on those platforms. We didn't take Instagram very seriously until maybe about 6 or 8 months into streaming.
Okay.
So, and then that's when he suggested I stop taking selfies and get like actual photography done of my cosplays.
Yeah.
And he started taking photos of me, and that's when we took Instagram a lot more seriously. And it was right when Instagram was working really hard to compete with TikTok with Reels.
Yeah.
So we were taking TikTok Reels or TikToks and putting them on Instagram as Reels, and Instagram was pushing that so hard at the time that I went from like anywhere from like 5,000 followers on Instagram to about 100,000 followers plus.
Wow.
Less than 6.
Wow, that's incredible.
So,
yeah. So
there was a timing thing as well.
Yeah. No. And you know, you really that certainly can't be understated. The timing, you know, of really hitting that new social media format, like just once it's really being pushed. I think, yeah, it's a matter of, you know, there is a matter of timing there for sure. Yeah, no, I had 100% thought that it started from cosplay and then went to streaming. That's great to know that it went the other direction. What was that? I think what was that moment, that impetus moment of, oh, I need to like start taking Instagram more seriously? Like what, like, was there a moment of just like a light bulb moment where you were like, oh, this is like really going to be a thing that's important for my content creation portfolio? Or was it just kind of, as the platform proved itself, it became easier to justify like putting time and effort into it?
It's the first one. What happened was, and I'm still a really big advocate for this, is that when I first started doing Twitch, and like I actually quit my job within like 2 months of Twitch. I was so freaking serious about it. And I have my husband who's also really supportive, so that was really nice. But we were doing Twitch and we were doing TikTok and Twitter. But Twitter's, you know, people think of Twitter as kind of like a sounding board, right?
Yeah.
Social media. There's TikTok, and then there was Twitch. And I was getting a lot of headway on TikTok. And this is so funny, but TikTok was so new. It used to be Musical.ly. It had really only been TikTok for about a year at that point. And I've grown up, like many of us at the end, I'm 32, right? With social media, with YouTube and with Instagram, right? And with Facebook.
Yep.
And I've been watching content creators since I was in high school, right? People that like YouTubers, right? That's when YouTubers as like, and Instagrammers, Instagram models, right, as a career started to really become a thing. And I was doing Twitch and I was doing TikTok, but because they were both so new to me and I didn't really have anyone that I watched on Twitch or anyone that I followed on TikTok as a content creator over the years, they didn't feel like real social media to me. Like I didn't feel like an actual content creator. But I realized as I started to want to work with brands and do content creation with gaming companies and devs and stuff like that, that TikTok was so new, and a lot of them really wanted to would only take you seriously if you had numbers on Instagram, because Instagram is old, it's classic at this point, and it's vetted.
Yeah.
Like they know the system of advertising and marketing, everything on Instagram is very safe. There's a system for it. Like they have their partnerships in place. TikTok was a wild card at the time. They were just like, we don't know what goes on over there. Like you might have followers, but like, what is that swamp of a place? And like, honestly, fair. So at that point, I was like, I'm not getting taken seriously, even though I have numbers in these two platforms, because they want to see YouTube and they want to see Instagram. So I know that Instagram wants to do reels, so I already have content. Let me just cross post onto Instagram and start taking it a lot more seriously. I was also using Twitter for pictures. And so it was like, well, I already have pictures. I might as well just put those on Instagram, because at the time Instagram was still primarily a photo app.
Yeah.
Not now, but
yeah, no, it's definitely moving in a very different direction now. I think I just saw a quick question come through. So advertise the stream on other popular apps. So that's exactly the crux of the conversation that we're planning on having today, right? Because I think that there is this often repeated idea of, and Jahara, you've already stated the point that I'm going to make, so I'm just going to take your words and restate them because you hit the nail on the head. There is this often stated idea of, hey, you're streaming, take that content, put it elsewhere, advertise your stream. And yes, that is, I think, the bare minimum of what, as a content creator, you ought to be doing. At a bare bones minimum, you need to be taking your content from stream and repurposing it for TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, YouTube long form, Twitter, whatever. At a bare minimum. But Jahara, what you've keyed in on, and this is an important learning point for a lot of people as they become content creators, is the content that you produce for each platform has to work for that platform, right? So like in the example of your content, portfolio, it's a matter of not just taking clips from your stream and putting them onto Instagram as video. It's taking incredible cosplay photos. It is, doing that extra element of cosplaying on Instagram because it does well on Instagram, right? There's that matter of creating the content that the platform enjoys and craves and wants to push, right? That's the big revelation, I think, that a lot of people at some point find out or sometimes honestly stumble their way into, because that was very much the case with my TikTok. I stumbled into content creation on TikTok. It was not something that I had planned on doing, but it was something that I found my way into and found content that was repeatable and able to produce regularly. So speaking of creating content for these platforms, we threw out this word when you and I started chatting early on about this show, storyboarding. Getting ready with storyboarding and figuring out a method of storyboarding. And while storyboarding as a concept is extremely tactical, I guess it's very like concrete, like, oh, do these 5 steps and your content will be better. I want to zoom out first and say, what is your creative process for making content not on Twitch?
It's a bit complex, and it's really changed over the years. So like, I absolutely agree. Like in the very beginning, when I first started to move to TikTok and stuff, it was like partially cosplay, but I also did a lot of like streaming related content. So I'm sure you remember, because I remember seeing you on there, where they call it like streamer talk, right?
Yep.
Where like most of your content is about like you'll film a short video being like, every time a regular comes in, hey, like you do like content to show what your stream is like, what your personality is like on stream. You talk about like funny things that happen in stream. And then there's also the bare minimum of just reposting clips from your stream, right? But I feel like I didn't really get a traction as a creator until I started making content that didn't have anything to do with stream. But like a lot of people that are in my stream now, if you ask them, will say like, I followed you from like one of my favorite viewers, because we all have like a bunch of viewers. One of my favorite regulars tells me, didn't even play games, but they come to every stream because they saw a TikTok I made about my Twitch community buying my wedding dress for me.
Mm,
And I just like filmed that and talked about it. And someone came and was just like, that sounds cool. I don't even want play games, but like I want to hang out with a community that's like that close knit. Right. And then some people are like, I just come to your streams because I saw this cosplay that you did and it was so great. And one's like, I saw this TikTok that you made about a funny joke at a convention and it was really funny. And it's just like, you don't have to make content about your stream. You just need to make content that reflects you as a person so that people want to come, and then let them know that your stream is there. Because a live stream, if at the very basics of it, is just an opportunity for someone to come speak to you live.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you like YouTubers, you can watch their video, you can comment and hope that they'll see your comment. But it's a lot easier to talk to a creator you like live on a stream if you type in the chat. Right. So people just want that opportunity, and they also are looking for a community through Discords. So I feel like when I'm trying to think of things that I want to make for content, it's just like, what is something that reflects me and the things that I like and the things that I talk about? Because I want people who have those same hobbies and same thoughts and values to come to my stream so we can chat.
I think we just lost your video real quick. I think you might need to just refresh the browser page real fast. Sometimes if
it all came back on its own.
Yep.
That was weird.
Sometimes it just gets annoyed. We're good.
Are we good?
Yep, we're fine. Yeah, no, and that makes perfect sense. And I think I think that you know, a broad point that is important for I think newer streamers to understand, and I'm intrigued to see if you agree with this take. Live streaming is rapidly becoming, in my opinion, less of a starting point for content creation and more of an ending point for content creation. And I'll explain that a little bit more, but I think that given the way content creation as an industry has moved, most people now view streaming on Twitch as like, I'm going to draw this comparison and it might raise some eyebrows, but it almost feels like Cameo, if we're familiar with the platform, where you can pay you know, your favorite celebrity $20 to like, or $200 to like read a birthday message to your brother or whatever. You know, I think that Twitch very much feels like a place for, like you said, people to speak with their already established favorite content creators live. And it's becoming a little bit less and less and less of an actual starting point for people's content. And I think it's extremely counterintuitive, I think, because a lot of people think, oh, you know, streaming is content creation. Why is that not a starting point anymore? And to a certain extent, it comes back to that you know, big word discoverability, right? It comes back to that idea of, in order to be able to stand out outside of everybody else that's streaming and creating content right now, you need to establish yourself somewhere else first. And you know, I think that shouldn't stop people from streaming, but what it ought to do, hopefully, is get people to pay a little bit closer to attention to where they're applying their efforts, right?
Absolutely. I really agree with that. And just to expound on it, because I feel like in the beginning you could start with Twitch, and a lot of if you're on like streamer Twitter, one of the biggest complaints from new streamers about Twitch or any platform that they're streaming on is the lack of discoverability, right? Like they feel like people can't find them, especially if you're playing a really popular game and you're a brand new streamer and people organize their searches by viewers. You're going to be at the very bottom of 10,000 people.
Yep.
Right. And some people like small streamers, so they will reverse that and go into the small streams. Right. And you do need to rely and nurse those people and be like, thank you for coming in to help discover me. But you shouldn't rely on Twitch for discoverability. That's what you need. You need the other platforms for. I don't think you can be a streamer on Twitch and not be consistently posting on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You don't have to do all of them at first. It'd be great. but like if you want to pick one that you excel at, that's good for you, or that's it's easiest for you to start in the beginning, you need to do something there. And contrary to popular belief, it doesn't have to be about your stream. Like it can be about the game. I know a popular creator that I follow who like just memes Final Fantasy X. All of their content is just them making jokes about Final Fantasy X. I love Final Fantasy X. I love their account. They don't show the game. They just talk about like the different quirks and stuff from the game. So funny. I follow someone who's like primarily just shows like their gaming room, right? I follow someone who always just talks about Gunpla because I also love Gunpla. And right, but then I sometimes go to their stream to watch them just chat. Sometimes they make Gunpla, sometimes they don't. But like I just want to talk to them. So I feel like if you want to be a creator on Twitch where people are live streaming, having and seeing you live and like supporting you in that way, you need to get your discoverability elsewhere. You just have to, especially as Twitch has gotten more popular over the years and live streaming is becoming more popular. It's really difficult to get your foot in by just like streaming every day for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's exactly it, right? Because that is, I mean, you hate to, it feels really weird to use this term, but it's archaic knowledge. Like that is an archaic way of thinking about streaming. Like that's how Twitch was back in, say, like, I don't know, 2014, 2015. That's what Twitch was like, where as long as you were live like 16 hours a day, that was a way for you to garner attention. That was a way for you to get viewers. That was a way for you to be able to find an audience and build a community. But that concept as a stream strategy went away so very quickly, and people found it absolutely necessary to do all of those other things as well. I think that's we've sort of witnessed that evolution in the last, say, 10 years or so. So it was one point that I want to jump off on. Nikki on Vegas says, I think that's where I get stuck. I keep trying to post about my stream, and maybe I should just post fun stuff I like. And I think that that's absolutely correct. Yeah, I think that that's 100% correct. Because again, I think everybody looks at streaming as your start point. It's not. It's a middle point to a finish line for your community. And by posting stuff that you like, that you're passionate about, you will find an audience faster that way, of people who are into Gunpla, for example, or into cosplay, or who are into mechanical keyboards is one that I come across all the time. Like there's tons of content creators who just build mechanical keyboards, and it's something that I'm passionate about and then consume content about and then go watch live streams about. Sorry, what's that?
The Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, Dungeons and Dragons, absolutely huge. Yeah, absolutely massive. Like, so finding your way into these niches, I think, is one of the great things about posting elsewhere first, and can really help sort of drive the direction of your content if you are approaching live streaming and thinking, well, I don't really know what I want to do with this platform yet. So, bit of a non sequitur question, but I think it's an important one to ask. Watch Her Focus. Do you have a difficult time cosplaying when the majority of characters are not always black girl friendly? I want to do that, but that is my pause.
The answer is no, I don't. But that's because cosplay was one of those things that I started doing before I jumped into, just like Twitch, I started doing it before I actually jumped into the industry and looked around and realized that there were supposed to be limits for me. I think I did well at Twitch because I never watched a Twitch stream. I didn't know anything about Twitch when I logged on. I just wanted the connection. And so I logged on and people were like, do you want to be a partner? And I was like, what's a partner? Like, I just didn't have anyone to compare myself to or any idea of what expectations people thought of me. So I was just really genuine and open. I did cosplay the same way. I was just like, oh, cosplay, that's that thing where you can like dress up as a character you like, right? And like, that was just like the base. I was just like, cool, I like this character, I'm gonna do them. And so it didn't even occur to me until after I started cosplaying certain characters that were not, as you would say, black girl friendly. So they're not black, right? And then I would post it online and some people were like, yes, girl. And some people were like, you can't do that. You don't look like that. And I was just like, I don't remember reading that in the definition of cosplay. That's weird. That's really funny that you say that to me. Anyway, I'm gonna keep doing that. And what I really enjoy doing, because cosplay to me is art, is reimagining characters in like a fan art sort of way. So like when people draw fan art, they're like, well, what if this person looked more like me? Or what if in this alternate universe they had like this color hair? So for me, like I did Zelda, I looked at Zelda and I was like, me with yellow hair. So I'm just gonna make her hair black, but her outfit is so distinct. And then sometimes I'm like that character, but if they looked more like me, I think they'd have curly hair. So I did Twilight Princess Zelda with curly hair, and it was a hit. Like, just cosplay is art. If you feel like a character doesn't quite fit you, change them to fit you. Simple as that. You're just drawing, but it's a lot more expensive and it's 3D.
Perfect. Yeah, no. And I kind of love that. I love that idea of getting into the scene, getting into the hobby without having any idea that there are limits on what people say you should or shouldn't do, right? And just barreling through those I guess barriers entirely just incidentally. Like, I love that. And I think that's super important for the people who, like I think Watcher Focus is saying, like, see that kind of representation and say like, oh, okay, this is something that I shouldn't feel bad about. This is something that I should just do and forget the haters.
Right? Because I also feel like when we're talking about storyboarding and creating content, right? When I first started Twitch, if I may be so bold, it wasn't very common for a Twitch. The reason most people think that I went from cosplay to Twitch instead of Twitch to cosplay is that cosplaying wasn't a common way to advertise your stream at the time. It wasn't like there was no segue between these two things. Like if you were a cosplayer that had a stream, maybe you would be in just chatting and like making your cosplay or like storyboarding, designing it and stuff like that. But like you didn't like game and then cosplay those characters from the game to get people to come to your stream. But because I wasn't basing what I was doing off of like anybody else, I was just like, I love cosplay, and it would be great if other people who like cosplay and the characters and the IPs I'm cosplaying from come chat with me in stream. Like, you like Final Fantasy? Please come to my stream. I want to talk to people who also like Final Fantasy. I'm so bored. We're on lockdown, right? Like, that was the idea behind every piece of content that we were making, was just like, this is something I enjoy. I would like to find other people who enjoy that to come talk to me about it live. Like, that's what I recommend when you're like thinking of a very base level of what can I make content for that will drive people to my stream. Who are you? What do you like? And what do you want to talk about? And then who are the people on the other side of that screen or table who would want to talk about those things with you or watch that game?
Yeah, no, and I think that content creation and certainly live streaming really had a revolutionary period during the pandemic, because like, I think that there were so many people who suddenly found themselves in a situation of having not as much human connection as they were used to on a day-to-day basis, and being able to seek out common interests on the internet allowed you to connect with like-minded people I think in ways that people didn't even really think about prior to it. Like, until all of a sudden you're not allowed to go outside, then you're like, oh, well, let's try and explore some alternative methods of connecting with people. And yeah, that shared interest and the shared desire for human connection drives so much of it. Like, that's really what it comes down to. So let's talk real quick about trending content, right? This is something that I wrestle with all the time. I think a lot of people struggle to strike a balance between purely hopping on trending content and thus diluting their own selves versus producing the content that they want to produce and are passionate about before knowing that there's an audience to consume it. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I love this topic. let's continue.
Yeah. So how do you personally strike that balance? Do you strike that balance, or are you at a point now where you're saying, I'm going to make what I want to make, people can consume it or not, I don't really care? Like, how do you approach that? What's your attitude?
One, body joy. Number two, I would say that if you're starting out and you want to make content, if you want to jump on like the trends, the TikTok trends, the dances, whatever, you can fully do that. If that's like the easiest stepping stone for you, it was for me. Like, especially because if it's just, you're like, I've kind of always wanted to do that trend, but I'm worried about looking silly on the internet. Like, look silly on the internet. There are
embrace the cringe.
Sillier. Okay, like. If it's funny to you and your little group of friends, if it's just funny to you and the voices in your head, it's funny, okay? Like, but the problem that you'll run into, or that I found myself running into, is that trending content, if you get the timing right, can take off, right? It can take off on TikTok, it can take off on Instagram, and you might get a lot of people who will love that piece of content that has gone viral, is the word, right? And you'll get followers. However, what you won't get, and this is really hard for people to grasp, I think, over time, because it's really exciting to see your numbers just go. You won't get loyal viewers. You won't get loyal community members, because they'll follow you for that one laugh, that one girl same mood moment. But if that trending content isn't like what you do, isn't like, if you just did that one trending content, but then the rest of your content is different, then every time the rest of your content comes up and it's different than what they followed you for, they're not going to pay attention, right? So you'll get you might have more followers, but your engagement's going to be low. And if that matters to you, good. And if it doesn't, I'll tell you that if you want to work with sponsors and stuff over time, engagement is what they look at over followers, like your engagement percent. So they want to see that your following is actually engaged and watches and comments and likes on your content, rather than your numbers just being inflated, right? Yeah. So if you make content that's just that you love and that you do and that is about you and that you might not jump always on those viral trends. There are ways that you can take some of those viral trends and tailor them to you a little bit to help get your stuff out there. And I'm 100% for that. And that takes a little bit of practice. Feel free to, my biggest advice is to follow other content creators that are in your same niche and see what they do. And that can help you follow some of those trends, right? But it might be slower doing stuff that you love, but you're going to build a more engaged following by doing that if you can. So again, like if you just don't have any other ideas and want to do some stuff for fun and just to get some ideas and throw it out there, get some videos up, something is better than nothing.
Yes.
100%. Something is better than nothing. But once you start to get like a feel for it and get used to posting, maybe get a little bit less anxiety about hitting post every time, start to make stuff that like you love and that is really like authentic to you. The best content creators, the biggest content creators that you see out there are making content that transcends trends. They just make their stuff. They do their thing. They're known for something. And and people go to them and watch every video because they have a certain expectation about what's going to happen in every video. The content isn't just like over here and over there. Here, like they know what kind of creator you are and what they're going to get when they go to your page.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things whenever I see people, especially newer streamers, throwing around the word consistency, right? That's a word that I always see every single streamer advice person throws around that word consistency, and people take this to mean only consistency of schedule, only consistency of posting, only consistency of when you're streaming, when you're going live, and for how long. But algorithms love a niche. That's just how it is. And consistency, I think, also means producing that consistent, high quality content that you are known for, to your point. That it's important to have that level of consistency of, whatever it is you're creating. And I think it's totally fine to divert and do a fun trend every now and again. I think that that's great. I think that can shake up your content in a way that draws new eyes to the rest of what you're doing. But that simply living on TikTok trends is a rough way of going. And I think to your point, you're right that especially if your ultimate goal is to drive users to a live streaming platform like Twitch or TikTok Live or what have you, constantly just being on trend is going to ultimately hurt you in the long run. I 100% agree with that. Especially because, if we think that like the attention span for streamers is low, the attention span for TikTokers is microscopic by comparison. Like I only started creating TikTok content like 2 years ago, 2.5-ish years ago. And everybody who was popular when I started TikTok is no longer on the platform, or like, really not engaged on TikTok anymore, or the content that they're creating on TikTok is so drastically different from what they are known for that it's basically like an entirely new account. And it's that idea of if you are constantly just doing what's trending, then you only serve to represent the trend and not yourself as a creator. I'm thinking of, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but there is a way.
Yes.
And like there is a way to use trends to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And like here's like the best example that I can think of by things that like because people will be like, well, what does that have to do with me? How can I make this trend? Or pay attention to trends is trends are a reflection of what's popular in current pop culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you might be like, I have a really hard time pulling that with this, right? So cosplay and gaming isn't that hard of a pull, but
mm-hmm.
like one of my favorite accounts that I follow is this guy who crochets stuffed animals. And he gets really popular because like whatever like trending TV show or anime there is, like when like Jujutsu Kaisen was really popular, he crocheted the characters from Jujutsu Kaisen. Exploded. Like whatever anime is popular or TV show, Witcher character crochets them. Obviously he can do a lot of other things, and he does, but it helps drive traffic by doing that. So like art, people will do art of whatever is popular at the time. Sometimes I will intentionally cosplay characters that are popular at the time to drive people. And then I've had people be like, I came for this cosplay that I saw from this popular thing, and then I stayed because I saw all of your other ones. And I like that, right? And like, so you want to make sure that whatever trend you're grabbing is still close enough to your regular content that you're like, I grab people that like this anime plus cosplay, and then they stay for the cosplay. So you want to talk about gaming, stuff like that. So you can use trends to your advantage as like popularity and to give you like some like storyboarding direction with what kind of content you should be making, because timing matters, right? Timing can help you out. You can put content that has nothing to do with timing, but you can also use timing to help you out. But if you're only doing trending stuff and not driving it back to the content you regularly make, you're just kind of signing yourself up for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like the one and
then it's gone. Yeah. And I think that like, so I guess, and I'll summarize in a way that sounds intentionally disingenuous, but hopefully will help people remember it. When you see a trend that's going on, take the moment, instead of just saying, oh, everybody's doing this thing, so I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. Take a moment to think, how can I make this about me? And I say that, only half joking, like, how can I take this trend and make it about me and about my content and what I want to put forth into onto the internet for people to learn about me, right? How can I make this about me? And like, I think that that can definitely help narrow down which trends it's worth to chase and which trends it's worth to just say, that's not something that I'm going to end up engaging with, because it's just not relevant enough to what I want to tell people about my content. Like I'm if I'm thinking about some of the TikTok trends that I've seen recently, like the two people walking down the sidewalk filming each other saying, we're blah, blah, blah. Of course we do this. Or we're blah, blah, blah. Of course we do that. You know, that, yeah, as a format, that kind of video, that trend is applicable to so many different niches, to so many different applications, that's a trend that is absolutely worth hopping on and say, you know, of course we play Apex Legends, you know, we play Apex Legends, of course we do this. Or
we're streamers, of course we do this, blah blah blah. Yeah, you can use it for any. I've seen it across almost every niche that I follow. We're sewists, we're this, we're that.
Yep.
And you know, it's very relatable content. Everyone goes, you know,
yeah,
like,
it's I'm this thing, and that's funny. Yeah, exactly. And it's it's relatable, and it's shareable, and it's the kind of thing that if you and this is where that idea of, I think, you know, planning your content and not just firing off the hip can go a long way, right? Because it's a matter of seeing the trend, recognizing, like, distilling it into what the actual trend is, and saying, okay, here's how I can adapt it to work with me and work with my content. And it's also important to take a look at that trend and say, oh, it's actually evolving in this direction a little bit. I wonder how I can maybe get ahead of that evolution, right? So again, if we're going back to the where you know, these types of people, of course we do this. You know, I don't know if you've seen any of the where guy girl besties ones. I don't know if those came across your feed at all.
I've seen a couple.
Yeah, and you know, the whole, like, they're shooting it like it's like, you know, you say something a little bit out of pocket and then you, like, drop the phone down and you're like, come on, dude, like, take this seriously. You're not supposed to be saying that, you know. Like, seeing that as an evolution and saying, oh, okay, I see that the trend has shifted a little bit. This is now going to affect the script that I'm writing for this video, right? This is something that Halite actually brought up in our panel, which is on YouTube. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. But the panel that we did at TwitchCon, which you were supposed to be there for it. I was so sad that I didn't get to hang out with you. I know. Maybe this year. I want to do another panel for TwitchCon, so, you know. Yeah.
It's in San Diego.
It's in San Diego. I'm so excited. Anyways, but, you know, one of the things that Halite brought up is this idea of plan your static content. Like, yes, the short form video, yes, it's a TikTok, it's 60 seconds. Like, you know, it's so easy to look at a piece of content like that and say, I can just say whatever. I can just, like, stand in my mirror and film. It's not that big of a deal. But if you take that little bit of extra time to actually think about, this is the point that I'm trying to make, this is how I'm going to frame it, this is how I'm going to hook a potential viewer, and this is how I'm going to keep their attention, then all of a sudden, that little bit of planning that you're putting into your content can go a very, very long way into getting greater engagement and getting greater retention and getting greater view completion, which then pushes your video further and allows you to continue to build that momentum, right? And it really just is that little bit of extra planning can go a super long way.
I think that's so funny that you say that, because I feel like some people that maybe are new to content creation have this impression that short form content is easier to make than long form content. So a lot of people will hop on Instagram and TikTok instead of YouTube, right? And we're, like, from the technical standpoint of, like, filming longer and editing on YouTube, longer form content can be daunting. It's like, think back to being in school and having to write an essay. I don't know if anyone ever had to do this or if they have to do this nowadays, but I remember having a teacher that would say, like, your assignment is to, like, cover this topic, but you can only use 200 words to talk about it. And when you have 5 pages to talk about something, when you have 30 minutes to discuss a topic, you don't really need to, you can just talk. You can just write, right? But if you need to talk about all of these points and you only have this finite amount of space or time, you need to plan, because a lot of, I learned when I first started TikTok, if you just hit, like, start on the TikTok for 30 seconds, you'll be like, hey, welcome, and then it'll be like, boop, and you're like, oh,
I wasn't done. Yeah.
Anything. I just, like, introduced myself. Like, that was way faster than I thought it was going to be. Like, you have to plan,
Mm-hmm.
you only have a few seconds to get your points in. And if you have a lot to say, you need to say it succinctly and perfectly.
Yeah.
Especially in a platform where like people are really looking to misunderstand you. Well,
Yes.
So, like, please plan what you're gonna say to a degree. Whether or not that you need to write a full exact script or just like an outline is really going to depend on you and your comfortability.
Yeah, no, and that's entirely, and I think to a certain extent it's an art form, like the ability to, you know, rattle off everything that you're trying to say in 60 seconds or less is a bit of an art form, and the more you practice it, the easier it gets. And, you know, I don't know about you, but I think for me, whenever I'm filming TikTok content, that process gets easier, right? Because once I start writing that script, I know, like, oh, I know exactly how many lines I can realistically fit into this script. And I know I'm really not going to be able to go beyond this. And so that initial writing process is that much smoother because I'm not writing a 1,200 word essay. I'm not writing, you know, a 50-page legal opinion. I'm writing a script for a 60-second minus video. And there is a little bit of also just being, you know, good enough at talking quickly to fit a lot of stuff in there. But no, I think the point, the argument of like, yeah, you sit down and take the time to plan, sit down and think it through. Like there's a you know, we talked about timing, right? There is this double-edged sword of timing, right? Of especially as it relates to, let's go back to the topic of trending content, especially as it relates to trending content, it's very easy to think, oh, I need to do this thing right now. I, like, in the next 30 minutes, must put up a video about XYZ topic because it's trending, because I have an opinion on it, because I want to talk about it. And I want to hop on this trend right away. And I'll make the argument that while yes, you and I have already stated that the attention span on TikTok and short form video platforms is incredibly minute, trends last a little bit longer than I think people are willing to think they do. Most TikTok trends don't have a lifespan of only a day. Most of them stick around for a week and a half. And especially those that are even more sort of broad, like the we're blah blah blah, of course we do X. Like, those trends have a sticking power that you can continue to hop on that trend up to weeks later on things like that. So, you know, I think the takeaway here, the concrete takeaway is take a little bit of extra time. You don't have to sit on a script for weeks. You don't have to sit on a script for months, but take a day and plan. And that will help you put together content that I think is way more compelling and way more interesting and will ultimately drive better engagement. Right? Because and here's the other thing about TikTok, right? Here's the other thing about TikTok is that TikTok exists both as a sort of how do I put it? Like this sort of like ragtag point and shoot, like, you know, stick the camera on selfie mode and talk into it platform on the one hand, but also a platform that values very, very highly produced, well shot, well scripted, well edited content. And the fact that both of these can exist on the platform, I think, gives you a freedom to be able to make what you want. But also, like you even, you know, sort of stated, and I've seen it in your content creation as your TikTok has evolved and grown and grown and evolved, that you've also shifted from, you know, taking selfies for Instagram to, oh, like actually really paying attention to the artistry of photography and paying attention to how to craft these beautiful shots, you know, say for Instagram, that look great on the feed, look great in your profile, and are engaging and make people want to see more of it.
The reason we decided to do that as well, and like when you're trying to decide what direction to take your content, is I noticed like within like the cosplay arena that in terms of like when you're looking for engagement, right? So you want to look at other people who are getting high engagement and like what it is that they're doing. I would see cosplayers that like I personally admire. There's all walks of life of people who do cosplay. There are people that spend like years on one single build, right? And like it's like they've crafted everything, handcrafted, hand sewed, like embroidery, everything. And it's beautiful work for somebody that really appreciates the art of cosplay, right? So you're looking at that and you're like, amazing, I love it.
Mhm.
But then they maybe only take a picture of themselves in their bathroom mirror to show you, right? Because they not necessarily have a photographer that can take pictures of them. But then I would notice that cosplays that might just be like a bodysuit someone bought from Amazon, but has a really cool posed, well done photo is going to get more engagement than the cosplay that is arguably better
Mhm.
in terms of craftsmanship, just because the visuals hit harder,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
On a screen, essentially, maybe not in person, but on a screen. So like it can be the same for any sort of content. You might be having a simple conversation, be like, let me just give you, a lot of makeup artists with a tip on like how you should do your concealer, right? But like you might stop and watched a well lit, well color graded, produced video about how you can do how you should do your concealer over someone who might be giving better advice, but the video doesn't look quite as good.
Mhm.
Like people really value the look of things, so like valuing that in your content and taking that little bit of extra time to fine tune some stuff will is already an eye catcher and will extend that very short attention span that people already have
Mhm.
because you've gotten their attention because you look like somebody who knows what they're talking about, right? Or
Yeah.
it's pretty, right?
Mhm.
Pretty is good. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why we value that.
No, for sure. And I guess thinking about that example of the cosplayer who does something that is very technically difficult, or building a costume that requires a lot of skill and craftsmanship, but the ability to show that off is maybe lacking in the final product. I wrote down the phrase like that's almost like a cosplay for cosplayers, right? It's a
Yeah.
cosplay for people who know what cosplay is and how difficult those techniques are, but that is not necessarily something that an outside audience can necessarily attach to and say, oh, I appreciate how difficult this thing was. That's until you do it, maybe you don't know.
And that's not to say that those sort of cosplayers or anyone in those sort of niches are even looking to grow in that respect. But if you are, that's just something to be conscious of, that people, if you're looking to grow in a wider audience outside of your niche of people that are just very surface level appreciators of the thing that you're doing, then that's a good way to, like, people who like this crochet account probably have never crocheted or never even thought that they wanted to crochet in their life, but they go, that's a cute stuffed animal of that video game character I like, like you're just trying to like grab in like areas where people might not necessarily appreciate the technicalities of what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
but can appreciate it for some other reason.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly it, right? And that's not to say that you have to produce one method of content and not the other. You can absolutely do both. I don't know, in the cosplay space, continuing on this kind of train of thought. Have you come across Kamui cosplay?
Of course.
Legend.
Come across?
Yes.
Legend.
Legend. Absolute legend in the space. But I've watched her content before, and as somebody who is not a cosplayer, dressing up for Halloween causes me a significant amount of stress. So as somebody who's not a cosplayer, like I can latch onto those incredibly well produced, well color graded, immaculately shot and edited photos of these incredibly intricate cosplays, and then still go and be excited to learn how the hell did she pull off this Monster Hunter outfit. Like, that thing should not be able to exist in three-dimensional space with real-world physics, and yet here it is looking me in the eye, and I cannot deny that like this costume exists. So how did you even get there? And like, you know, so I think that realistically speaking, you don't have to do one or the other. It's best to produce both, but you do need to take a slightly and I'll relate this back to gaming in a sec. You do need to take a slightly more zoomed out view of your own content and say, okay, who is this content actually speaking to? Who is going to appreciate the content that I'm putting out there? Because at the end of the day, if your niche is too niched, you're limiting your growth. Yeah, go ahead. You had a point. You were very excited.
I just to tie that back to streaming and gaming. Who are you making your content for, and who you want to come is so huge. And I see it's a common mistake that a lot of streamers make, especially like with streamer talk, right? We all did it, where like we got into this where you can easily get into a niche of creating content or posting content that appeals to other streamers, but might not appeal to viewers. And so you need to be conscious of that, because like you can make inside jokes with other streamers all day, but like streamers are also streaming.
Yep.
So you want people who aren't necessarily streaming to come see you because they have more time, right? And they might be more loyal because they don't have their own stream, and that's not really their interest. They just want to watch and interact. So just, I feel like you can make content like it applies to any field, right? You can be a barista who makes a bunch of jokes about their customers, and the baristas are like, yes, that is what it's like to be a barista, preach, right? But you can also make sure you walk that fine line where if you're going to make content that, like, I don't know, makes fun of people that say certain things in chat, that you might deter the people that are like that in your chat. But if it is somebody that you want to deter, like if you want to like dog on misogynists, like go ahead and do that so they can come to talk to you, like whatever. Yes. But like just be aware that like sometimes you can take that trending content within your niche and only make it for people that are doing the same things as you, and that's really fun and we all enjoy the jokes. But also just keep in mind, like, who are you making it for? Because who do you want to come view and enjoy your content? Who is that? And I know, do notice with a lot of like streaming or even customer service facing things that we can fall very easily into a make fun of the customer or the viewer trap that would make other potential people uncomfortable, because they're like, well, I don't want to be the person that accidentally says something in your chat that then you're gonna go and make a video about making fun of, right? Yeah. So then people feel a little like about it. So just maybe, I've loved streamers who would make content about like someone who's new to the chat and maybe just like hasn't chatted before, and then they say hi, and then how like welcoming you are, and how amazing that is, and then someone might just be like, wow, so I go to their stream and I'm kind of nervous to talk, and I do that, it's like super great. So, you know, just keep stuff like that in mind when you're making your content across everything, of like, what do you want to think about you and how your environment is and how your stream is, especially if you're talking about your stream is specifically, and make sure that reflects in what you're making.
Yeah, no, and
that's a really easy trend to jump on.
It is, yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll just take a moment to pause real quick and say we've done about an hour of just talking. So if you have questions, chat, I don't think I said this earlier at the top of the show. That's my bad. If you have questions for either of us, please do throw them into the chat. You know, we're monitoring it and checking it out, and you know, if it's something that, you know, we think we have a good answer to, we'd be happy to answer it. We're here to help you and not just talk about what we want to talk about as well. As much as I do enjoy talking about what I want to talk about. But yeah, no, I think that taking, again, it goes back to that idea of planning, right? It goes back to that idea of, and I want to really kind of highlight something that you said that's definitely true of TikTok, but is kind of true of the internet as a whole, of people who go there wanting to be misunderstood, or you know, who are intentionally there to cause misunderstanding and pick fights on the internet. And I think it's one of those things. It's one of those things where it's you're never going to be perfect. There's always going to be somebody who is going to latch onto something that you said or did or showed or, you know, what have you, and who is intent on misinterpreting that word, action, visual in a way that is just there for them to pick a fight over. But that being said, and this is somebody who approaches content creation from a have an abundance of caution mindset of like, what am I saying exactly in my video? And what are some ways that I can envision somebody misinterpreting my words? And if there is a significant misinterpretation that I want to make sure that I avoid, I will tweak my script and say, oh, okay, you know what? Actually, this particular thing isn't sitting well with me and the content that I want to make. Let me see how I can retool this in order to say what I want to say and avoid misunderstanding. And
way I phrased that, oh, sorry to cut in, but
no, go ahead.
I phrase that is factoring for the lowest common denominator is how I view that in my content. I go, if what is like one way that, or like one bad thing that someone could, one bad thing or interpretation that someone could take this, and if you think that there is one, it is to your best interest to just assume that will happen.
Yeah.
Like, the troll factor, right? If there is a troll factor and you're just like, well, but that's obviously not what I'm saying. I don't think anybody, there are a billion people in the world. There will be the lowest common denominator. So if you can rephrase it or redo it or re-edit it to remove that, do so. And if you are just willing to deal with that as like a haphazard, like for me, cosplaying a character that doesn't look like me is just part territory. Like, there's nothing I can do about that, then that is what it is. But just be cognizant of that, and you can avoid it in some situations.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly it. And I think that goes back to the idea of thinking through and planning your content of don't just plan for what you intend to say, plan for the reception of it. Plan for, as best you can, after I put this out, how will people take it? How will people, feel about this? And if you are not taking the time to consider how your content will be received, I think you can find yourself on the receiving end of a lot of controversy that, likely is not necessary, or likely could have been clarified, or likely could have been entirely avoided had you considered for a moment, stopped and considered, hey, what am I putting out there? And I think that's incredibly important. And I think that allows you to build an innate sense of trust with your viewers, what's the line? We stand an unproblematic king, right? Like the idea of, hey, I've taken the time and like sat with this script and thought, okay, how do I think this will be received? What ways could somebody misinterpret this disingenuously to attack me? And how can I avoid all of that? Is there something within my script that I can do to avoid it? Or it really is, for the example of being a black cosplayer, saying, I know that I'm going to get this amount of hate. I know that there are going to be people in my comments who are going to be there saying mean things because that's just who they are as people, and you cannot account for that. But at least by thinking it through, you've now mentally prepared yourself for, okay, I'm expecting 2% of my comments to be trolls who are racist. And
the mental planning goes a long way, and you also having a response, if any, to people who will then come at you in a certain way, and you'd be like, well, I was already expecting this, I know what I'm gonna say, or do my case is just ignore, block, move on, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the day.
Yeah, having a contingency plan. Yeah. Curious Joy says, since creation is all about evolving, what are some things you're planning to level up your streams / content this year?
Oh gosh, that's so hard because in the beginning there was like a lot to do.
Yeah.
When you only have like the one, so you have Twitch, and then like I need to grow on other platforms, and so now I have a TikTok, and I have Twitter, and I have Instagram. But this year, I had spoken about how I didn't feel like a real content creator because growing up for me, that was a YouTuber and an Instagram model, right?
Oh, I want to talk more about that.
Instagram.
I want to talk more about that, but hold on. I'll write that down. I'll write that one down for later.
Please do. It's an interesting. It's like a little box of worms. You're like, why is it? But yeah, I had that perspective. Then I moved to Instagram. But for me, long form content was really daunting. And now I'm on YouTube this year. So I've moved a lot of. I upload some pieces of VODs on YouTube, as well as like gaming content, as well as cosplay content. And so it's a place where like all of the stuff that I do can merge, because I do a little bit of gaming on Instagram, but it's mostly cosplay. Twitter is both. TikTok is only cosplay, right? For the most part. And then YouTube is a place where I can do my gaming and my cosplay hand in hand. And that's what I'm going to be doing to really level up. And thanks to Streamlabs and their multi-stream and dual stream, sponsored, but also amazing. I multi-stream on all the platforms. So I stream on Twitch and YouTube simultaneously, and I also can stream on Twitch and Instagram simultaneously, which is really great because I get so many people on Instagram that are just like, I've never seen anybody gaming on Instagram. Literally ever, like, and it's really cool to be like the first person to do something. It might not garner as much attention at first, but then you still get to like be at the forefront of something. So yeah, I would say now that multi-streaming and Twitch has changed their rules as far as that, like, jump on that train. Like, it's so new for people to be streaming on multiple platforms at once. And you have like Streamlabs that can give you that ability to do it like just automatically through Ultra. Do it. Like, reach in as many places you can get. Instagram, you can do TikTok, you can do Twitch, of course, and then YouTube. I highly recommend that, and that's what I'm doing, so that like my time is better spent. There's more value to it because you're in more places.
Yeah. No, and I think that it's all about that idea of building your audience where they exist, right? Because and I think it's safe to say that you know, we saw, for some of us who are old enough to remember this, we saw the $20 million experiment, you know, social psychology experiment of this, when Shroud and Ninja both jumped over to Mixer way back in the day for a very hefty sum of money, and it made perfect financial sense for them. But that gamble of, hey, if we just pay these people who are super popular enough money, they'll bring their entire audience over to our new platform, and that'll be great. And what they quickly learned was people have way more loyalty to a platform than they do to a creator sometimes. And if that can happen to the likes of Shroud and Ninja, that can happen to anybody, right? Everybody.
Especially you, especially me.
Yeah. And so that idea of creating the content where your audience exists such that they can still be a part of the community, still be a part of the content stream, they can still be a part of it, but consuming from the platform that they enjoy and engage with the most can, I think, go a very, very, very long way to retaining those eyes and retaining that attention. One other question that I had, as related to that initial question of how do you plan on evolving your content? How do you, and actually maybe the first question should be, have you fallen into a content rut at some point? And if so, how did you dig yourself back out of it?
Yeah, like all of last year.
Yeah.
I think I did. It doesn't seem like it maybe from an outside perspective, but like in terms of like how much content I was putting out, like it drastically went down. And I think it's because I was going through like a morph of like how I like to make my content and like my own personal preferences on how I do things. And it's pretty like niche in this way, but to give you the example of like when I first started cosplaying, I pretty much exclusively bought all of my stuff, right? And then I started to find an interest and love in making things, but being able to produce content at the same rate as someone who purchases a costume versus someone who has to take the time to make it is impossible.
Yeah.
So I was falling into this rut of confusion of like, how do I make things but also produce content at the same rate that I was doing. And it took me a while to figure out that I can't, and also that I can mix it. And I've gotten better at it after a few months. I was able to just kind of like find this, like, so some content can be making and some content can be how it was before, and like mixing it up like that. And when you always, and anytime you make shifts in your content, you're always going to see dips in terms of engagement and things, because again, people follow you because they expect a certain type of content from you. Of course, you're going to have some followers that are loyal to, they will like, watch, and subscribe to anything that you make as long as your face is in it. There are those people, and bless them. But there are also people that are just surface followers that are just like, this isn't what you usually do, or like they see the YouTube video and they're just like, I watch you because of your vlogs in Japan, and now you're in Florida. I don't care about Florida, so I'm not gonna watch this one. I'll wait till you go back, right? And that's no fault to that follower. So you shouldn't think badly of that person. But to fall into those ruts, that's totally fine. I think getting out of it has a lot to do with giving yourself some grace, and maybe even taking a break. I took like a 2-month break from streaming, which when I first started, I would have never done. Not even a week, because I was so worried about my momentum. But after like the 2 months, not only have I come back to like the same viewership, but better. And I also feel better about how I'm doing things, and like I feel a bit more grounded, and I have more, I can plan better. Not being able to plan can make content creation seem super overwhelming, which is why we're talking about it, and it's so important, because I feel like people have this idea that like, if you're not working in an office, that like, I feel like the people, like, if you work for yourself, that you don't work as much. Content creation, because it involves so much social media, the blur between work-life balance is so huge. Like, there is no work-life balance, because you're like, if I'm on social media, I'm looking at my own stuff, I'm looking at trends, I'm enjoying, I'm laughing, I'm commenting, I'm liking, but I'm also writing down what I should be doing and how I can tailor this to myself. Like, it's like so much work. So having that plan is, you need to be able to plan to give yourself some time to free yourself of that. And so that's why planning is so much easier. Taking the time, if you're really finding yourself in a rut, to just take a break, to then plan so that you can breathe, is really important.
I think that you know, I don't remember, there was some comedian said this. Is definitely this is not my you know, original thought, but some comedian said something along the lines of, you know, they say do what you love for work, and you'll never work a day in your life, or something like that. You know, what they should be saying is, you know, do what you love for work, and you will completely lose any and all sense of work-life balance, and completely dedicate yourself to your work, and then start to resent it and burn out and leave. Like, and that is so true. Like, I don't know if this is something that, I think this is honestly one of the major hurdles that I think a lot of content creators run into, which is that idea of, we're all sold this idea, right? This concept of do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Like, that's such a common phrase that everybody says, it's oft repeated. And I think that's core to a lot of people who get into content creation with a career track in mind, of saying, I want to make content and I want to make this into a sustainable income generating business that I can live comfortably off of. And I think that one of the difficult things, that's one of those barriers that everybody runs into at some point of, oh, I'm not playing games for fun anymore. I'm not traveling for fun anymore. I'm not, to use your words, being grounded and present in the moment. I am sitting here thinking about, should I be shooting B-roll? Do I need to be taking pictures for Instagram? If I'm taking pictures for Instagram, what's the best place for me to go do that right now? Am I being disruptive pulling out my phone right now and filming a TikTok because I'm in front of this, you know, whatever, the Empire State Building? Or
conversation is so funny, I should be vlogging it. Like, oh.
Yeah.
Can you say that again?
Like, yeah. Hold on. Like, it's the wait, no. Hold on. I wasn't recording. Wait, can you say that? Like, do that again. Like, do exactly like that again. Whatever you just did, just do it again. And and make it seem genuine and make it seem like I just happened to be recording and captured this at the right moment, you know, or you get into that idea of everything that I do has to be on camera. I have to be recording constantly, because what happens if I miss this thing that will let me go viral on TikTok? Like, it can turn into this all-consuming mentality where you never really switch off. And I think to relate to that, to relate back to that idea of having a damn plan can help keep you on task and help you get away from that idea of everything is content, everything is content, everything is content, right? To use your example of a travel vlog, right? I don't know if some people like who follow Streamlabs on Instagram or whatever, you'll see, you know, back when I still had Kevin, you'll see like the little Kevin travel logs and the little Kevin, you know, like bopping around TwitchCon stuff. All of that was planned. I, like, going into Vegas, came up with a shot list of, these are the shots that I want to get. This is the story that I'm going to tell. This is when I'm going to do it. And this is how I'm going to make sure that I apply each and every, you know, like, this is my storyboard. This is the story that I want to tell. These are the shots that I need to do it and to tell that story. And that helped me actually enjoy TwitchCon and not constantly be sitting there looking over my shoulder and saying, is this content? Is that content? Is that going to be good? Should I do this? Like, maybe I should be over there. Oh no, I got to be up here actually. Have a plan, and it can actually free your mind up a ton too.
I feel like when you're new to content creation, I realized I used to have this idea of YouTubers. Like, it must be so nice to be able to just go to Target and to just cook dinner and just clean your house and then just have the camera rolling and just turn your everyday life into video. And that is not what's happening.
No.
Like, it's not at all what's happening. The skill to make it look like that's what's happening is what makes a YouTuber. If you feel like getting vlog content at TwitchCon is just you having your camera rolling 24/7 at TwitchCon, you are going to kill yourself. It's going to be so rough on you.
Yep.
What you need to do is be like, this is the video I want to do. So I need a shot of this. I need a shot of me saying this in front of this that I think is going to be there. I want a shot of me talking to a friend about this topic. And then you can just like do those things.
Yep.
And then when you've done those things, you know that everything in between, you can just turn off that part of your brain and actually talk to your friends and relax and enjoy yourself, instead of always being like, that would have, like you said, that would have been great. That would have been great. Should I be getting this? It's like, you have your shots planned. Like, I've now learned that, like, just go to Target. Like, if going to Target takes you an hour, first of all, it's a great place.
Yeah.
But if you think you're going to film while you're at Target, add a 30 minutes to an hour to anything that you want to film to the task, right? If you think, especially if you're getting multiple angles, B-roll, like, of moving the camera into different spots. You see someone like, oh, they just film and vacuum. They just film and clean. Yeah, but did you see that amazing B-roll shot where the camera was on the floor, where it was coming in vacuuming under the desk? You know what that had to do to get the lighting and move the camera under the desk to get that shot instead of just vacuuming under the desk? So, like, so much planning goes into it, and it will give you so much peace of mind. I feel like Twitch in particular, because we have like this hustle culture of stream longer, stream harder, right? That it's really easy to burn yourself out if you think that you can just organically. And Twitch streamers, in the fact, especially when you get good at it, are a skill set that I really admire, because you don't have cuts like YouTube, right? Where you can be like, let me say that again, let me get that shot again. You're just riffing off the cuff in front of a camera and talking to people, and that's a skill that you develop, and not everybody can do it, and it takes, some people need more practice than others, and you should be proud of yourself for having the courage to sit down and do it.
Yes.
Because it can be scary, but if you can plan your content off of Twitch, so when you have those moments, you can be really on. I think it also, aside with planning, behooves you to understand that as a Twitch streamer, and you're doing what you love video games, and you sit down and play a video game, but you are working. One of the best things about my husband is that he understands, because I'll be like, sometimes in my head I'm just like, I'm just so lucky I just get to sit down and play games for 4 hours. He's like, yeah, but like, imagine if you were like a professor who needed to go give a speech for 4 hours.
Yeah.
A 4-hour speech in front of an audience where you needed to respond to the best of your ability to every comment from 100 people in that audience for 4 hours straight, not a single person would look at you and be like, you didn't just work your butt off. That was a lot of work, right? Even if you don't have even just a room of 20 people, like even having a conversation for some people can be really socially draining.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
So like the idea that you would sit down and have 5 or even 10 people and want to have to talk to each of them, engaging, right? And be like attentive. Work. So like give yourself that time to stream. Give yourself that off time, and then schedule some time to make your content elsewhere instead of only streaming.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's a great question from the audience. What tools do you use to help yourself plan and stay on track? Because your girl has ADHD and my brain constantly has too many tabs open. First of all, same. I also have ADHD, and I think for what it's worth, I think that there's a lot of people who make content who do, probably have ADHD or some form of neurodivergence, because the ability to hop on and create content and to talk about things that we care about and nurture our hyperfixations and feel like we are doing something that we enjoy, that gives us that dopamine that we so vitally need, that still allows us to feel like we are working and accomplishing goals and ticking things off of a to-do list, I think makes a lot of sense why content creation, and neurodivergence does seem to have some overlap. I haven't done a study on it.
Right.
I don't know what the percentage is, but there is, I think, some overlap here. That being said, go ahead.
I was gonna say for my answer to that, like what tools do I use? I don't know if this is a good answer, but as I'll give you my experience. So normally when someone says that you need to get organized, and I'm sure we've all absorbed many different tips, right? Where you're like, you should do a calendar, like a whiteboard, or do a notes app, or no, typing isn't gonna do it. You need to be tactile, write in a journal, right? I've never been able to stick to one thing. I've sometimes I get really excited about the thing. Like if I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have a tactile journal, so I write stuff down. I'll go to Barnes and Noble. I will pick out the cutest journal. I'll get some gel pens, right? I'm like super excited, and I'll use that for 2 days, and then I won't even know where I put it, right? I can't. It just doesn't hold my attention for that long. So I've stopped beholding myself to one tool. Whatever I am close, I have many tools, and whatever I am closest to is what I'm going to write the idea down. The only consistent thing I can say is when you have the idea, write it down.
Yes.
If you have the idea and then you have the thought, I'm going to remember that later, you're a liar.
No, you're not.
You're a liar and a cheat, and you're not going to remember it.
No, you absolutely will not remember it later.
You won't even remember that you had the idea half the time. It'll just cease to exist. So I actually have my notes app on my phone. I also have a Discord with just my husband that just has ideas. So I can write the idea and it sends it to an app or the Discord where we can both see it. Right? So he can see it. I have a whiteboard calendar in my kitchen that I have a whiteboard marker attached to. So sometimes if I have an idea in bed, I'll pull up my notes app and I'll do it. If I'm having an idea in the kitchen, I'll write it on the whiteboard. If I'm by Discord's almost always open, I'll type it in the Discord because he can send it to me. Having someone else look at your idea also helps you solidify the fact that you're actually going to do it.
Yeah.
One of my recent favorite ones, especially when you're looking at trends and ideas for content, especially if you're someone who's always on social media, but you want to feel like you're not just enjoying social media or mind scrolling it, but you want to use it for ideas. I will actually, if the reel or picture is downloadable, I'll download it. If it's not, that's totally fair, because sometimes you can't download my stuff because I'm sick of fake accounts popping up and using my stuff. But
fair.
Can screen cap for your own albums. And I actually have an album. So when I'm learning how to sew, I have an album for sewing. And whenever I see anything that is remotely helpful as a tip, I will download or screen cap it and stick it in that photo album. And if I have an album called TikTok Ideas, and if I see a TikTok that I think is interesting or a trend that I think I can use, I will just download that video or screen cap that video and throw it in that album in my phone.
Yeah.
That way it's just a place, because if I'm gonna have my phone in my hand constantly anyway, I can just open up those albums and be like, here was the idea that I saw. And then sometimes that's all you need to do is like, that was the TikTok that I saw and I thought about doing. There it goes. So like, if you feel like writing it down, like whatever works for you, just have multiple places that you can write stuff down in different places in your house, and just remember that you have those things. And sometimes you'll just have to be like, I need an idea for content. And you'll be like, is it on the whiteboard? Let me go look in the journal. Let me look at my WhatsApp. Like, just open them all up when you need an idea. Like, put it in multiple places. That works for me as someone who's very scatterbrained in that.
Yeah, no, all of that is great. And I definitely love that idea of when you have the idea, write it down. And if you have a moment of creativity, stop what you're doing and shift your focus onto that. Like if all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I have this great idea for a TikTok video, I'm going to just start writing down everything that I can about it. Because I think for me as well, like with ADHD, it's hard to just be like, be creative now. Now it's creative time to be creative. Like sometimes you have to have those moments of, I feel creative in this moment, and I am going to take advantage of this feeling and get a bunch of it out right now. And that doesn't mean that it's something that you have to go and film right then and there. It's something that you can say, okay, I've written out a script, I've written out a storyboard, I've written out, how we're going to hop on this trend. But that just means that that's work that I don't have to do later. As opposed to if you just have the idea of, oh, do this trend. When you come back to that idea later, you might have to have a moment of like, wait, okay, but why? How was I going to do this? I don't remember how like I was thinking about this. Why this trend of all things? So when you get that moment of creativity, when you get that spark, take advantage and nurture that for as long as you can, and write down anything and everything that you can about how you want to implement it. Don't just write down the do this trend, right? Because I think you save yourself a lot of anguish later of trying to figure out like, what the heck did I mean when I wrote down this idea? And it comes back to that idea of you have to work with the way that your brain works and not work against it. If you have a sudden spark of creativity, keep a journal at your bedside. If you're laying in bed staring at your ceiling and you're suddenly inspired to like script a TikTok, just take a second, write your ideas down, and then, hopefully by putting that on paper, you can finally go to sleep.
Seriously, it can be really hard, like when you are actually getting ready to film something, to then come up with the ideas. I used to try and do that. And I akin it to like when I lived in Japan and we would go to karaoke. I swear, every time I thought about going to karaoke, I was like, next time I go, I'm gonna sing this, I'm gonna sing this, I'm gonna sing this. And then as soon as I'm in the karaoke box and they're like, what do you want to sing? I'm just like, I've actually never heard of music and I don't know any songs.
What even is karaoke? Why am I here? Who are you people?
I don't know what I could possibly, I've never heard a song before. So I can't think, I have zero ideas. Like I feel like there is just like some kind of pressure when you sit down to actually film your content. If you schedule some time for yourself, you'd be like, I had all of these ideas I think I can do, but now that I have the time to do it, I can't remember anything that I wanted to do. And now I'm spending most of the time that I scheduled to actually film just thinking of ideas again. And then sometimes you can just burn yourself out thinking of ideas.
Yeah.
And then be like, well, now, that's technically work. So I guess I'll just have to film another day. So
yep.
Like, have the idea thinking out of the way if you can. So then when you actually have time to do, you do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll add to that. I think it's one way that you can help extricate these ideas back out from the places and journals and apps and whiteboards where you've squirreled them away is take an hour on Sunday, say for example. Just take an hour on Sunday and say, okay, let me go through all of the stuff that I've written down, all of the notes that I've jotted down for content for the next week, 2 weeks, even if depending on your schedule, and say, okay, this is what I want to film this day. This is when I'm going to post it. This is what I want to, I'm going to film all of this on this day. I'm going to edit it on this day, and I'll post the results the next day. take that time to like actually dig those ideas back up and like dedicate the time for that, right? Like, because I think it's easy to have the notes app. It's hard to then pull those ideas back out. Like I have entire albums on TikTok saved of recipes that I want to cook, like drink recipes that I want to try, you know, like bartending is something that I'm like trying to get more into, you know, stuff like that. Like these are all things that I see a recipe and I'm like, oh, that looks really good, I'm going to save it. And then when it comes time to go grocery shopping and it comes time to you know, actually cook a meal, I'm like, well, I've got no ideas. I've never, I don't know how to cook. I've never considered cooking a damn thing in my life, just like your karaoke example, right? Like, so taking the time to say, oh, I'm going to, and this is something that me and one of my partners do, like, we'll take the time and be like, oh, let's go through our respective saved TikToks and Reels and see if there's a recipe in here that both of us are like, actually, that sounds like a lot of fun to cook. Let's do that. So giving yourself the space and time to dig those ideas back up and not just let them sitting, not just leave them sitting in an app collecting dust, can also help keep you very much on task and help, again, keep your mind ahead of the game, you know, when it comes time to actually sit down and shoot, that you're not sitting there then digging through your notes app and being like, well, these 5 words don't make any sense next to each other. I have no idea what the hell I was thinking. You know, I think you can save yourself a lot of pain and agony by setting a time and really going through your plan.
Right. If you do that and like you have your albums, or if you're someone who uses Pinterest, that is also like a great place to do stuff like that. Like, related for my daughter's hair, I have a board of like every picture of someone's hairstyle that I thought would look cute on my daughter. So then when I sit down to do her hair, I can literally just pull it up and be like,
which one of these speaks to you? Yeah, let's try this one. Yeah, exactly.
So like that works for recipes, it works for content, it works for a lot of things if you have trouble with organizing things. That's our advice there. Helping you plan.
Yeah, and it's also recognizing, hey, you know what? Sometimes it's gonna be a slow brain day. Sometimes you're gonna sit down and be like, wow, I know I set aside this time for script writing. I am not feeling creative. I'm not feeling up for this task. I'm not deriving much joy from this. Reclaim that time. Go do something you enjoy. Go do something else. You know, write that script when the inspiration hits. That's you know, I really want to harp on that a little bit to say, like, yeah, if you are feeling inspired, take the time to get it done. Like, ride that momentum, because as with all things ADHD, that momentum is fleeting, and as soon as it's gone, it's gone. And you just gotta go get a little bit distracted and go do the thing that your brain is screaming at you to do. And I think you'll find great results coming from that, truthfully.
Take advantage of this microfixation.
Yeah.
Microfixate on it. Do it, because you don't know when the next time you're gonna feel like doing it is, and sometimes you need to feel like doing it to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. You need to take advantage. You need to take advantage. All right. I wanna come back to what you said earlier about not feeling like a real content creator. Let's talk about this. Describe to me, if you could, because I think this is something, imposter syndrome is a common thing amongst human beings in general. Describe that feeling to me. What did that feel like? What kind of words were you applying to it? What were you maybe telling yourself, believing about yourself?
It's weird. I realize it now. I think just because of the way that we grew up and that like YouTube was such a tried and true platform, that I was assigning value to certain platforms over others. So because I wasn't on to me, content creators are YouTube. And because I wasn't on YouTube, I wasn't a content creator in that way. Just I like, if I were to meet, which was like funny because like some people would view like your overall follower count. Right? I am blessed that across all of my platforms, I have something like 800,000 followers. But if I were to like meet a YouTuber that I watched my YouTubers for years. I'm loyal. Okay. So like I have like a YouTuber that like has like 300,000 followers, and I've watched every single one of her videos, regardless of what it's about for years. And if I
Mhm.
were to meet her, I would just be like, just bow down, and I'm like, oh my god, so amazing. And she's like, oh yeah, I've seen some of your stuff too. And I'd be like, that's not real. That stuff's not real. Because like you're on YouTube and like you make videos. I make like that's not even real stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mhm.
Like, but like it's weird because I don't necessarily assign that to other people. That's just like to myself. And I feel like it's just we just don't assign as much value to ourselves as we assign to others. Like you might be like, oh, they're a real content creator because like they put out this many times a week, they're super consistent, or they make this sort of content. And it's something that you admire and you look up to. And you're like, I don't do that. So I'm not a real content creator in that way. Like I'm just, for me, my biggest thing, and I feel like a lot of Twitch streamers and people on Twitch specifically would say, I'm like, I'm just a girl who just is making videos in my house.
Mhm.
Which is funny because I feel like if you ask an actual YouTuber, they would also be like, I'm just a person just making videos in my house. And you're like, yeah, but you're professional. Like, no, it's the same. But like, that's just how you feel. You're just like, I mean, I have my phone. I feel like maybe when you're watching other people, kind of when I said goes back to like, it seems so easy watching other content online and it seems so seamless and so beautiful. And it's almost like you kind of pull back the curtain on content creation when you're doing it yourself because you're seeing the nitty gritty behind it. You're seeing just phone on the tripod or the camera on the tripod. You're seeing the cuts of going, all right, hey, welcome back to my channel. Let's try that again. Okay, welcome back. Make sure you subscribe. Let's try that again. And because you don't see any of that for somebody else, they seem like they did it all perfectly. And it was really simple. And you also might assume that they have higher quality setups. I think that's also an assumption that you have from creators that you see. Like they probably have really nice lights, really good camera. That's why their stuff looks so good, right? And then you're like, but me, like, I got like this weird rig for my thing so it doesn't fall over. And like my desk, like you can't see it. It's not right now, but like, you know, for some people, my desk is a mess. It's like covered in like friggin' like cans or whatever. And like, I bet that creator that I look up to has a perfectly organized desks. And like people ask me all the time, like, can I see your cosplay room? I feel like you have like this image that I have like this beautiful IKEA room filled with cosplay. It is not that.
Yep.
Like, they're like, for me, I just store my cosplays everywhere. Please show us how you organize yours. And I was like, oh, also just I don't know what you're talking about. But I just feel like we assign that value to other creators more than we do ourselves. And I don't know that I will ever reach a point, any number of followers, any number of sponsorships, that I will feel like I am like a professional at this. Because I very much, in the words of Hamilton the Musical, feel like I'm flying by the seat of my pants all the time.
Yeah.
Like, and it's all like all comes from experience and time. But I have learned utilize imposter syndrome to my benefit. Like I'm not as afraid of it anymore. I don't think of it as a bad thing necessarily. And the reason why is I feel like because I always feel sounds so sad.
Did you also read the Sailor Moon glove comment just now?
I can't. I don't know where they are. Okay, but it's like the thing where it's like because I always feel a certain degree of like I don't belong here. That's the sad part because I'm always feeling a certain degree of I don't belong here. I'm not as good as the other people that are here. I'm always extremely thankful for every place that I'm at and every opportunity that I'm in. And I feel like that keeps me presenting and actually as humble. Because I don't feel like I belong here. I'm always just like, I don't even know why they invited me. I can't believe I'm gonna make sure to shake everybody's hand. And say, thank you so much. And say, thank you so much. Like, and it's good because people are like, you're so like nice. And I'm like, I feel like if you can take that and use it to your advantage, if you feel like, wow, I can't believe this is happening to me, run with that. I've had people tell me a billion times, they're just like, it's so fun how you were just like so excited to be here. I'm like, I am excited to be here. I'm just a girl who was started playing Zelda on her computer, and now you're like, come talk to me about this, like, come talk to me about this video game. And I'm just like, for real? Me? Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can use imposter syndrome to your advantage. There's a balance because you need to know your worth, and companies will try and come for you and take advantage of the fact that you don't understand the power that you can have over
Mhm.
an audience. So there's just a little bit of balance. So if you're
Yeah.
ever feeling a little bit bad about it, just turn it around and be like, I'm just super thankful that I do get to be here,
Mhm.
even if I kind of feel like I don't deserve it.
Mhm.
And then on the days where like, but then make sure you keep in mind like, you ain't gonna let people play you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's exactly it. I think that enough imposter syndrome to stay humble, enough of the audacity to know your worth. Like,
Yes.
that's really what it comes down to, right? Because
a potent mix.
yeah, exactly. Like, and you're constantly going to be like sprinkling and adjusting the ratios here, like, and taste as you go. Like, that's always going to be the case, right? Because that's I think you're 100% right. Like, I think it's in life, not just in content creation, but I think one of the reasons why it comes up in content creation so much is that everybody has curated their image to some extent. Everybody who creates content curates their image to some extent. It's, I think, just human nature. Now, I am not going to say that, like, when I create content, I'm presenting a character or a caricature. I think I am, generally in the content that I make, I generally try and present myself as I am, flaws and all. But that being said, that presentation of myself is still curated. It is still controlled and something that I am happy to put out there onto the internet for people to enjoy and consume. So it's very easy, I think, for content creators to forget that about other content creators, though, right? Of, oh, well, I'm kind of faking it. I'm kind of, I'm putting a version of myself that I'm okay with everybody seeing, but that person is living their truest life, and they are, very, very clearly, like, genuinely just this person on the internet, and they don't do any editing, and they woke up looking like that, and their skin is immaculate 100% of the time, and they're perfect and I am not. And it's easy to get caught in that loop of everybody is doing something that I am not doing, and I am faking it in order to get. When you realize,
like, stumbling over myself and like barely getting to this, where everyone else is just walking gracefully, fully planned, no mistake. It's just me who's trying to keep up, and it's like, actually.
Yeah, there was the YouTuber goes by the name Simply Nailogical, owns the Holo Taco brand of nail polish. We love, a lot of brand loyalty there in that towards them in this house. Released a video not too long ago that, one of my partners showed me because it was important for me to see, and it was an unedited set of takes of her talking about a new nail polish and talking about a new product. And it's really, I think, really eye-opening when exactly the way that you said it, you see the person, and I'll demonstrate. You see the person sitting there in front of the camera. They're like, okay. Hey, everybody. How you? Okay, hold on. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the new YouTube video. We're really excited to be talking to, you see that. And that's exactly what you don't see, right? Is you don't see all of those moments that have been edited out in between lines of them delivering something and then saying, like, what am I even trying to say? Like, what is that? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, come on, get it together. Like, I've filmed a handful of long form videos now for one of our products podcast editor. And I always feel really weird sending them just the raw recording of me flubbing a line, dropping, starting over, shaking out, doing it again, doing a variation, doing it again. Like, I always feel really weird sending that to them and be like, here's a pile of crap. Do what you can with this, I guess. But
one of my favorite things that I did for y'all is I sent you like a finished video, but then there was one take. I didn't do it. My husband did it because he edited the video, and he thought it would be funny to also send y'all the take where, like, there was one line that I was trying to get that I just couldn't get. Like, I spent like 5 minutes on it, and I finally hit it, and there's just me being like, da 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 da. yeah, finally. And like, I like come to the chat and he had like taken that part out and sent it. And he was like, by the way, when Jahar finally hit that line, and I was like, how dare you?
Yeah, how dare you?
How dare you show what I'm like behind the scenes? Because I just couldn't. I was just flubbing all over. It wasn't even that hard. I was just like, I'm having such a hard time with these words. But like, it is fun. And I feel like we can all relate that when you have like with Simply Analogical, seeing creators be a little bit more vulnerable and show you those moments, you almost like fall in love with that creator more because they become more relatable to you, because you're like, oh, I thought you were perfect. Like I have a creator that has 1 million followers on YouTube. And at one point, she kind of showed her old setup that she used for like her reveals for her sewing projects. And it always looked perfect because she had like, it was filmed with like a white background and everything like that. But then she had backed up and was like, oh man, when I used to live in that house, it was in the basement, like shoved in the corner. And like she showed like the lights that were like on, like, and there was like all the basement storage behind it. It wasn't like completely flat. Like some of the lights were like balancing on boxes. And then like sometimes her like thing would fall in the back and you have to put it back up. And you're just like,
yeah,
like I love it. But because of that, I feel like you would never envision any other creator, especially like Twitch, where like we have this very curated box of what it is you can see, that you imagine that everything that you're seeing here is reflected in what I'm looking at as perfection. Right, which is, if you've ever heard of cable management, very unlikely.
This is this is a great, like, so there was a period of time where my desk was flipped 180 degrees, right? So I was facing this wall and my bedroom just goes that way, and my camera was set up in such a way that it was capturing a significant portion of my bedroom, and I knew exactly where the camera line was in my room, where if I needed to shove some clean laundry in a pile, I knew that as long as it was past this line, it wouldn't show on camera, and people wouldn't be like, wow, you got like a lot of clean laundry piling up there. Are you going to fold that or what? Like, I knew exactly where in my room was on camera versus off camera. And it was a line. Like, you could just see it. Like, it was just right there. And that's...
You do that all the time. You're just like...
Yeah, I literally, there isn't a better metaphor than that, than for like what we present as ourselves on the internet, right? Like, yes, everybody has laundry. That's a common human thing, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go out of my way to show you my pile of clean laundry. Like, that's just, I don't want to show that on camera. But that in a way is curating my image, right? That in a way is curating what I allow people to see of me on the internet. And everybody's image is curated. Everybody's image is crafted in that way of, what do I want to show you? What don't I want to show you? What am I okay sharing? What am I not okay sharing? Just that. It doesn't have to be like, oh, this is the character that I'm going to play on my stream. This is the way that my character thinks I'm playing a role, Dr. Disrespect style. Like, you don't have to go that far. Everybody curates their image to a certain extent.
I'm going to say it's just interesting because you're saying like, at what point do you feel, imposter syndrome, the audacity, when do you feel like a real creator? I've been doing this for like it'll be 4 years at the end of this year, right? I still feel, I don't even really feel like a real content creator until like, at one point I went to like the 16 launch event and I was like there, I got invited to go and I was watching, and at some point someone like tapped on my shoulder and they were like, are you Jahar Jade? Yeah. And it was like this like moment. I was just like, how does some random person know who I am? And I was like, I was hoping you would be here. There were even a few points where like my husband was like, there were those girls over there, they were whispering and trying to get up the courage to come talk to you. Hi. And I was like, come talk to me.
Why?
Why would they want to talk to me?
What possibly could they have to say to me? Like, what? I'm just somebody. Right? I'm just a person. Why don't they just come say hi? Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe as a streamer or anything, you'll never really feel that way but there are moments I've even seen people just been like, girl, like people will like quote my stuff and be like, I wish I could look like this with zero effort. And I'm like,
zero? What do you mean zero effort? Yeah.
That was 110% of all of my effort to look like that. Oh, you've never seen me at zero effort. Let me tell you. But like we always think other people that what they're showing us is just like, even like when they're like no makeup, not nice clothes, they're just like, wow, that's just how they woke up. I'm like, I almost guarantee that's not true.
I think I keep kicking around this analogy in my mind. And this might, I don't think it's a dated reference, but I don't know, it might be. There was, God, remember back when, because you and I are around the same age, you remember back when like wilderness survival shows were like all the rage, like you had the Bear Grylls shows or whatever, but there was that one guy who like, you know, prided himself on like no camera crews, you know, nobody else, just me and my camera, you know, making content. I forget the like wild man, whatever, I don't remember his name, but the point is, I keep coming back to that idea, right, of being in a jungle alone with nothing but 3 cameras and 3 tripods. And if you take the time to think about what it takes for him to film an episode of his show, okay, I need to place my camera over here, and I'm going to walk across this river. And then I have to walk back out into the river and pick up the camera that I just left there and pack that all up and then move it down the trail and set up the next still shot for me to walk through frame again. And I'm going to walk through from the left to the right to show forward progress and blah, 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 right? When you consider that how much goes into being that one person and filming that piece of content as one person, that's, other than setting and context, that is probably not going to be too dissimilar a process to shooting a travel vlog or shooting a day out or a get ready with me or whatever content you're producing. That's probably going to be very similar experience. Maybe fewer mosquitoes, but you know, the idea of like, oh, okay, now I'm going to go do my makeup. I need to set my lights, set my camera up. Don't block my mirror because I need that to be able to see what I'm doing. But like, you know, understanding that all comes with planning, right? That all comes with time and attention and sitting and thinking about it and doing all of that pre-planning ahead of time. But yeah, like I don't know why I keep coming back to that analogy.
I think it's really good because what's nice is when you realize that everyone else is putting that level of planning to an extent onto their content, it makes content creation feel less daunting and less like a hurdle. Because I think what a lot of people think, I get in streams, right? They're like, I want to be a streamer too, but like I'm gonna wait until like my setup looks like yours or what I perceive yours to look like. So like I'm gonna wait until I have the perfect background, the perfect lighting, and blah blah blah. I also have this thing with filming other short form content in other places where you're not at your desk. I just assume that everybody but me has perfect natural lighting in their house. Like,
and it is always golden hour and
right. I'm just like, I don't know why I just never think that I'm the only person ever in the history of content creation that has to use studio lights in my house. Like that there are studio lights on the other side of the camera. I'm like, no, everyone else just has perfect flattering natural sunlight in their home everywhere they go, in all directions at all times of the day, even at night. Like only I have to use lights, and I hate that for myself. But like that's probably not true. Sometimes I even like catch like a little chord in like a video, and I'm like, oh, they use lights too, and I'm like amazed. I'm like, you have to use lights? That's not just your window? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, guys, if you ever think like my skin looks good, like people are like, you look so good on stream. I'm like, I've got lighting. I have filters. I have several filters on my camera. Like everything is very curated, but I don't think other people are like that. But if you realize that, then it feels less daunting because you're like, well, it's okay to have a jerry rig. Like the only reason my camera is even right now, I'm gonna be totally transparent with everyone. My camera's on a tripod that doesn't quite support the weight of my camera. So to get it from leaning back, I have it sitting on 2 separately stacked in height decks of Magic the Gathering to get it to sit the way that I want it to sit. Okay, know that about me. My camera is on a tripod on top of a deck, several decks of Magic the Gathering cards, and every once in a while I'll go and pull a card out. Adjust it. It's not looking the way I think it's looking. So
amazing.
Like, it's not just you. You don't have to have a perfect setup to start streaming or to start filming anything, like just do it. Make it. You can have cords everywhere. You can have the one little corner of your house that you can't see all of the laundry or all of the dishes. If you think you're the only person that's ever like done the dishes, so that you can film in that spot and the dishes aren't seen, and that's the only reason you did the dishes still got done.
Yep.
Okay. Like, do that all the time when we film our kitchen. We're like, oh, kitchen, let me just clean the oven real quick. It's not always this clean, I promise.
Yep.
So yeah, I feel like I love that there's been like a surge in content. I would even encourage people to do content around this that talks about the behind the scenes of being a content creator, because it almost disillusions you of what content creation is like, and that you as a regular person are fully capable of doing that and executing it, you know? So you don't have to have perfect. Most people just film their content on an iPhone these days. You can too.
Yeah.
Streaming on an iPhone is a whole other thing, but hey,
it's
know
possible.
what we're streaming on, just ask us.
Yeah, it's possible. It's very possible, and you know, you can do it for relatively cheaply. It just costs the battery of your camera, unfortunately, or the battery of your phone. Yeah. But you know, that being said, like, yeah, no, I think it's that idea of it's that idea of the barrier to entry for content creation. I think right now is lower than it's ever been. For whether it's for streaming or for TikTok or for YouTube, it is lower than it's ever been, because you don't need a DSLR. You don't need a professional shotgun microphone. You don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment to film for YouTube. You need this. And you can film vlog style content right from your phone without much trouble. And the camera that's in your phone with the stabilization that's built into your phone is good enough to shoot. Like, you can literally go and buy a $5 selfie stick from like Dollar General and start filming vlog style content today if you wanted to. The barrier to entry, I think, is lower than it has ever been. But that comes with the caveat that it is harder than ever to make content that people find compelling. Because I think that there is so much stuff out there all the time, every day, that is being uploaded and filmed and produced and uploaded and filmed and produced, that it's so easy to assume, you know, to your point, that everybody has a better process than me, and everybody has better gear than me, and everybody has better this and better that, and you know, again, wakes up looking gorgeous with perfect skin and perfect lighting, natural lighting from their floor to ceiling windows on their penthouse apartment in Manhattan every single day, right? You know, everybody,
it really does feel like that.
Yeah, everybody has something better than me. Everybody is doing something better than me. Everybody is whatever. You know, it's very, very, very easy to fall into that trap of, you know, yes, content creators are just people, but they're all people who, you know, I think somebody said in chat earlier, it rains on me and only me, right? Mm-hmm. It's so easy because you don't see that other side of the camera of those individuals. You don't see the flubbed lines. You don't see the bloopers. You don't see the sitting there freaking out trying to figure out, like, I'm supposed to put out a video today and I have no idea what I'm doing, and I have no creativity, and I have no inspiration, and I don't even know why I'm doing this. I don't want to do this. Why did I sign up to do this? You don't see that because, generally speaking, a lot of content creators don't want to show you that because it's not part of their curated image. And
even those vulnerable moments are curated vulnerable moments.
Yes.
Keep those in mind.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's exactly it. And even those vulnerable moments are curated vulnerable moments of you know, in Simply Nailogical's example, explaining why we're not going to be doing as much YouTube content going forwards, because it's there to illustrate the point of, hey, this is not fun for me anymore. I'm going to do other stuff. We're still going to, be doing a lot of it, but I'm taking a step back from this part of my content. Those are bloopers that she was like, yes, this is good representation of the point that I'm trying to make. It is also curated. So, it's that little bit of fallback advice, I think, that applies to so much of life in general, of just remember that nobody else knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody, to some extent or another, is faking it as they go along. And I think hopefully it'll help you feel a little bit better about putting content out there and just feeling good about the content that you're putting out there. I think that is just a solid foundational piece of advice to build off of. Yeah. So we are at time. I felt like that completely flew by. So I don't know. I had a great time. Thank you so much for being here, Jahara. Like I said, we have been TikTok mutuals for a really long while, and I always love getting a chance to sit down and chat with you like this. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being a part of my little show here on the Streamlabs channel. If you want to go ahead and let people know, again, remind everybody of who you are and where they can find you.
Okay, I'm Jahara Jade. That's Jahara Jade with a Y and the Jade on Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. But I'm Jahara Jade Games on YouTube, and I'm still building my YouTube channel. So you should go follow me over there. I do lots of other content, both short form and long form. And then come see my stream. I'll be streaming later. We're doing Final Fantasy VIII, and I love talking to chat and the Final Fantasy games. We're also playing Bayonetta.
Ooh,
Next.
nice.
And I need to buy some Bayonetta glasses. I wear glasses, and I need to have specific glasses for that game. So come hang out. I would love to see you. I dual stream on YouTube and on YouTube. So whichever, YouTube and Twitch. So whatever works best for you, I would absolutely love to see you. And if you have any questions that are just for me, I noticed there were a few of those in chat every once in a while. Feel free to come to stream. I do stream because I can talk for so long. So long. So if you have questions and you're like, sorry to bother you, and you're not bothering me, I will answer your questions, whether they be technical about streaming or about cosplay or about like where you getting makeup, anything.
Your video just froze. What a perfect time for the video to freeze.
I have frozen in such an ugly face. Rude.
It's a paid actor. It's fine.
Wow.
As for me, as you can probably see down here, I am Nubbins Inc. basically everywhere on the internet. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. I will also be live a little bit later today, this evening, playing some Valorant and hanging out and chatting. And similarly, if you had some questions that you weren't able to have answered here, do feel free to swing by the stream. I always love chatting with people about. We've been doing a lot more relationship advice recently, actually. Don't really know how that came about, but we've been doing a lot of relationship advice recently. So that's also a topic that I always love talking about, but not the topic of this stream. But yeah, I'll be live. What's that?
As it could be the topic of next
stream. It could absolutely be the topic of next stream. Yeah. So yeah, I'll be back online 7 p.m. Eastern. But Jahara, I can't see your face, but thank you so much for. I actually wonder if. Hold on. I wonder if I hide it and then show it again. Oh no, it's just frozen. All right, whatever. It happens. Jahara, thank you so much for being here. Like I said, I always really enjoy the times that we get to hang out and have these conversations. So I want to say thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for your insight into the content creation, the game. And for everybody, if you enjoyed this content, we do try and run these streams every week. I think next week probably won't happen because a lot of people are traveling from the office, but we try and run these office hours once a week. We also have other programming, including our Creator Spotlight series, which just kicked off yesterday, highlighting API creators and raising money for the Asian Mental Health Collective for the Lunar New Year. That was almost tripped up on that, alongside our friends at Logitech G. And we do host regular art giveaways on Fridays. So if you're not following the Streamlabs channels, make sure you do that and ring the notification bell so that you can be informed when we are live next. But until then, have an amazing rest of your day. I appreciate you all. And happy streaming. And we'll see you next time. Have a good one.